Doncaster is one of 3 mansion houses in the country, the others being in London and York. We're very proud of the mansion house, and we think that it's a very fine building, having been designed by James Payn, who became one of the foremost Palladian architects of the 18th century. We have a mansion house because in the 18th century, Doncaster was an up-and-coming town. It was on the Great North Road, so that if you were travelling between London and Edinburgh, you were likely to pass through Doncaster and along this very road. From the outside, the mansion house is probably the most impressive building on the High Street. And when it was first built and completed in 1749, that would have been even more impressive. It's not surprising because the design is based on the drawing for a palace done by Inigo Jones, which James Payn, the architect, adapted for Doncaster's mansion house. As we enter the hallway, we can see at the far end the Ionic columns and the magnificent imperial design staircase. Payn designed this space to be a grand reception that became more elaborate and more decorated as you went up to the first floor. As we go into the front committee room, the most significant item that we see is the large table, which is an interesting shape, curved on one side and straight on the other. Whilst we don't know what all the rooms were definitely used for, we do think that this room was originally used as a magistrate's court. In the 18th century, the mayor had a role as the chief magistrate, and so it is likely that he and colleagues would have heard cases here. As we go into the back committee room, we see another long committee table, but this one is much more recent, having been made by council workpeople. On the right-hand side, we see another reminder of the time when the council used to hold all its meetings here in the form of a desk. And we can see from the carving on the front of it, with the old Doncaster coat of arms with a lion holding a flag, that it was a Doncaster Council piece of furniture. As we go up the stairs, we see at the top 2 of the 6 mirrors, which are some of the original pieces of furniture in the mansion house. We think that they were designed by Payn, and they're made of the pine backing, a limewood carving, and then gessoed and gilded. As we go into the ballroom, we see the largest and most magnificent room in the mansion house. Around the room, there were some very handsome paintings, which have generally been donated by local nobility and gentry. The earliest is of George III. This is a very fine painting, a copy of one by Reynolds, and George III was, of course, the English king who was reputed to have been mad, but probably could have been cured with modern medicine. Facing him at the other end is one of his descendants, Queen Victoria. This painting is a copy of one at Windsor Castle and shows the Queen in her younger days. Queen Victoria did visit Doncaster during the time of her reign in 1851, but we're not quite sure whether she visited the mansion house or not. We also have a painting, the most recent one, of Lord Lonsdale. He was known as the Yellow Earl, and we have his painting because he was a steward at the racecourse. He had quite an interesting career, having inherited a lot of money, but also having spent it generously and enjoying life to the full. On the panels on the staircase, we see, as we go up, on the left-hand side, Mercury, the messenger god, and we see his messenger's wand and a money bag. And this is because he was the god of roads and trade, which is very appropriate for Doncaster, being on the Great North Road and a market town. On the right-hand side, as we go up, we see the Greek goddess Athene, or Roman Minerva, and her symbols are the owl for wisdom and the fighting cock, because she was the goddess of wisdom and war. As we go into the ballroom, the 2 panels there represent, on the left-hand side as we face the door, Venus or Aphrodite, with her symbols of 2 doves and 2 dolphins, and on the right-hand side we see Apollo, the god of music, with musical instruments and the rays coming out of the back of his head, since he was also the sun god. As we enter the salon, we notice that this room has been considerably altered from Payn's original design. At the back we see double doors leading to the dining room or council chamber, But originally, this would have been the back of the mansion house and it would have been a window. Since at that time they were dependent for light on candles and later gas lamps, there was a problem if there was no natural light, and therefore the canopy was built above the room to give a very gentle overhead lighting. Some of the portraits here continue the royal theme. Above the fireplace, we see a portrait of Queen Elizabeth II, donated by Lord Scarborough. And on the right-hand side, her mother, Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother, and on the left, one of Queen Mary, her grandmother. Beyond the salon, we reach the council chamber, which was added in 1806 to the design of William Lindley, an architect who came to Doncaster and spent most of his working life here. We think it may have been commissioned to coincide with the visit of the Prince of Wales and the Duke of Clarence, later respectively to be George IV and William IV, to Doncaster for the races in September 1806. The gallery was built in the middle of the 19th century to a design by Butterworth, one of the Doncaster Council architects, and makes it easier to go right round the building rather than having to go back and forth. It makes a very pleasant light space, particularly since the piece window was added in 1986. This is the drawing room or ladies' tea room, again used as a committee room by the council at one time. And here we can see above the fireplace a handsome mirror which was made for the mansion house, because again we have the lion holding the flag, and on either side of the fireplace 2 further lions.